Hello, Dr. Keesha here. Happy Fun Friday, everybody. I created this whole concept of Fun Friday when I was raising my 4 children, and they are now in their 20s, so I am empty nested. And I thought, you know what? Mother's Day is approaching. I have, of course, going through my old memories of raising my kids and thinking about what it means to be a mother at this stage of life, and thinking about my own mother. And it's just been a really wonderful contemplative morning for me as we approach Mother's Day. So I was thinking about this, all women are mothers. It doesn't matter if you've birthed a child or not, because we're all super creative in some way or another. Every human is. And we are creating something and birthing it into the world. So I celebrate all of you as mothers, no matter, how old you are, whether or not you've actually raised children or not. At some point, you have become a mother to some creative project or being in this lifetime. So, as a mom, I used to think, sometimes this is such a drag. I would, 4 kids, my house would be a mess, and I would think it's just one long slog of doing dishes, doing meals, picking up clutter, making beds, doing laundry, ferrying kids from one place to another. And then I thought, you know what? Is that what I want my children to remember? Is that I was thinking that I had to keep up with the housework all the time, and that it was a slog, and that they were somehow burdens in my life. And this was when they were really small. I got this realization. I think what happened is I was standing with a bottle of window cleaner, a roll of paper towels or a rag, and for the umpteenth time that week was watching my boys in my bedroom. We had these mirrored closets, and they would go up and make themselves laugh. My youngest one was just a toddler, a baby, and he would love to put his little sticky, slobbery hands all over that mirror. And I just remember I was always cleaning it. And as I stood there looking at this window cleaner and this rag, I thought, oh my gosh, is this how I want to spend my time mothering, is just cleaning up after my kids all the time? And I decided I didn't. And I made an intention that I wanted to become a joyful mother. And so I thought, you know what? How do I become a joyful mother? I need to set an intention for being a joyful mother, to have fun, to be lighthearted about this. And then I thought, you know what? Not just as a mom, but as a person, I want to become more lighthearted and more joyful and have more fun. So I created Fun Friday. So now I'm going to do a Facebook Live every Friday. And I'm going to give you some tips or interact with you about how you have fun. I think we could use more fun. We live in a culture that's very achievement and productivity oriented, and it seems like we're overscheduled, overburdened, and just overcommitted at all times. And I see my patients are overly tired and overly stressed and burned out. And I would really love to infuse a little lighthearted fun into our lives. So back to Fun Friday. That's going to be today. And one of the things that I did as I set my intention was I created a joy jar. And, I think at the time, the first one was just a mason jar. And what I did is I took different colors of paper, today what we would call, now that we have them, and in those days we didn't, sticky notes. And I would write down what my kids thought was a joyful thing to do. And then I would write down what I thought was a joyful thing to do. And I had a joy jar for my husband and myself, because another thing I wanted to infuse into my life was a joyful marriage. And so I thought, okay, so let's have a joy jar for kids and for spouse. And then we had a family joy jar. So you can do as much of this as you want, or just take one and make it a family joy jar. And then everybody gets to benefit. Now, you can get fancy, because this is now what I love to use. And so it's this beautiful, beautiful jar. Or you can just do something like I showed you, a mason jar. And you just write down, what are the things that bring you joy? Now, in my joy jar, I remember when my children were small, it was go to the park, swing on the swings, make homemade ice cream. And, nowadays we make that with coconut milk and no sugar. It's monk fruit instead. And all these, I'm actually publishing a cookbook. It's coming out for pre-sales or starting tomorrow for recipes that are 7 ingredients or less and don't have sugar in them. And so there's a frozen ice cream in there. So making ice cream, doing things together as a family, going bike riding, going for a walk, going skateboarding, hopping in the puddles when it's raining. We used to do this thing where we'd put our rubber boots on and we would go outside with our umbrellas and we would jump in the puddles as hard as we could and splash each other and singing in the rain. And we would sing in the rain and jump in these puddles. And it was a complete blast because, of course, that was something that I realized I was always trying to keep my kids' clothes clean. And I thought, you know what? Why am I doing that all the time? I'm doing laundry anyway. Why don't we get wet? Why don't we just have fun? And so it's bringing this other idea to what it means to live your life. It's bringing joy, lightheartedness, fun into it. So I'd love to hear what your fun ideas are, how you have fun. The way I have fun today at the age of 53, rather than a young mother in my 20s and 30s, is I love to go hiking. I started my day today. I'm on San Juan Island right now, off the coast of the state of Washington, and Limekiln State Park is here. And we took our 3 dogs and we went for a walk by the water and up into the forest. And we have this really lovely hour-long loop that we do at Limekiln State Park. That brought me a ton of joy. First thing in the morning, sunshine outside, being near the water, being under the trees, because the earth has all that beautiful energy that infuses into you if you'll go outside. So, it's finding fun away from getting your kids away from video game consoles, away from computer screens, away from Facebook, which is what we're doing right now, away from anything that has to be plugged in or charged, and really, coming together. I had a colleague of mine wrote into a private Facebook group that I belong to of a bunch of functional medicine doctors and providers. And he said, I'm in a quandary because our yearly gathering that we have in August, it happens to coincide with my son's 8th birthday, which is a big deal. And he said, my son asked to go camping. And I thought, gosh, isn't that so interesting that his son asked him to go camping, a time when he's getting completely unplugged. He can't be reached, because he's out in the woods. He can't have a cell phone because there's no cell service. And it's just going to be the family together, mom, dad, son. And I realized that our children are probably really wanting that. And I know as a parent, it was my kids when they were teenagers when cell phones came on the scene, and I made a rule, you can't have them at the table, because I wanted that connection. I wanted to talk to my kids. I wanted to have that interaction. How was your day? What did you learn today? We used to say the highs and the lows. What is the high of your day? What is the low of your day? And then we could be supportive of one another for the lows. We could celebrate the highs. So you can't do that if you're sitting there in front of your telephone. So I thought that's kind of fascinating that he asked his dad to go camping. And I've been thinking about that and thinking about how it's so different now to raise children in our time. And that they probably are wanting more of our attention off of screens, just like we want them away from video games. So I would just say, build yourself a joy jar. Get together with your family. If it's just you, yourself, you know what? You are your family. Write down the things that bring you joy, put them in a jar, and make sure that you get into that jar at least every day. And I'd say at least every week, and then daily if you can. And find something that's going to surprise you and bring you joy. I think that that's something you can do for your future self. If you're partnered and you have somebody that you share your life with, then make a joy jar for the two of you. That's something I remember my mother making for my father for Christmas one year. She gave him like a TLC jar, and it was all things that he would like, and he got to draw one of those out every week, and it was enough for the entire year. So it's just bringing thoughtfulness to yourself and to the ones that you love. And then if you have children that are old enough to contribute to what they want to do as a family or with you, then make a Fun Friday. What would you do for Fun Friday together? What would you do for Fun Friday for yourself? And really get intentional about it. Write it down, put it in your joy jar. Because life is short. And since I've been in medicine for, 53, so over 30 years now, that's incredible. I've seen a lot. And I've heard a lot of stories. And in my time in medicine, in my early years, I used to work solely in the intensive care unit. And I learned something very valuable in those years that I worked intensive care. I learned that life can change in a red hot second. And all of the plans that you make for your future can go away, because you just never know what life is going to bring from one second to the next. And so as a mystic medicine doctor, one of the things that I always say is your formula for living your life is to listen, breathe, and love. So listening would be listening to your family members and what they desire for your connection together. Listening to your spouse, what's wanted in the marriage, what are the bids, as John Gottman would say, that your partner's making of you. People are more likely to honor your bids if you're listening to theirs and honoring them. Listen into yourself. What's your body trying to tell you? What is your emotional state trying to tell you? What's your mental state trying to tell you? What's your spirit trying to tell you? Really listen in. Be contemplative and quiet enough every single day to listen. And then if you breathe, you'll never be in sympathetic nervous system response. If you can breathe down into your belly and let it inflate as you inhale and then deflate as you exhale, that actually, you cannot have what I call a flabby abby or a loose belly and breathe into it. You cannot be tense if you can do that. So breathe. Every one of your cells requires oxygen. Your mitochondria in your cells require oxygen. There's all kinds of stuff in the functional medicine world where there's summits where people are talking about making sure you have a healthy brain and you should take this supplement and eat this and not that. But actually, at the end of the day, the most important thing you can do is to breathe, and to breathe properly. And when you're feeling joyful, you are breathing properly. When you're feeling stressed, you're not. It's that simple. So Fun Friday is a time to drop in and down to your cells and give them the oxygen and the nourishment that they require. And then love. If you're loving everybody as if everybody is God, and you're loving yourself as if you are God, and you're honoring and respecting people in that way, you're going to be lighthearted. You're going to have fun. You're going to have joy, because you cannot be in the presence of the divine and not feel joy. So that's your formula for Fun Friday for today. That's my Mystic Medicine formula for life and health and wellness. So have a fantastic Friday, everybody. Thank goodness it's Fun Friday.